February 19th, 2026. 1541 local time. The Persian Gulf. The USS Jason Dunham is named after a hero. Corporal Jason Dunham, United States Marine Corps, threw himself on a grenade in Iraq in 2004. He saved 2 fellow Marines. He received the Medal of Honor posthumously. 23 years later, the destroyer that carries his name is about to demonstrate the same kind of courage under fire. At 1541, a Sejil 2 medium-range ballistic missile, the most advanced weapon Iran has ever fired at an American ship, strikes the Jason Dunham's forward superstructure. This is not a near miss. This is not fragmentation damage. This is a direct hit. I'm your host at U.S. Defense Review, where we analyze the military operations that shape global security. The May 28th attack nearly destroyed an American destroyer. It killed 11 sailors. It should have killed more. What happened in the 33 minutes that followed would demonstrate American military power at its most devastating and most ruthless. The response wasn't just retaliation. It was elimination. Let's understand what the Jason Dunham faced. The Sejil 2 is Iran's most advanced ballistic missile. Solid-fueled, 2-stage, with a range of 2,000 kilometers and a 650-kilogram warhead. It's designed to strike Israel. It's designed to carry nuclear weapons if Iran ever develops them. No one expected Iran to waste a Sejil 2 on a single ship. That miscalculation nearly cost the Jason Dunham everything. The missile launched from a position deep inside Iran, 380 kilometers from the coast. At that range, it could reach altitude over 150 kilometers, descending at velocities exceeding Mach 10. The Jason Dunham's AN/SPY-1D radar detected the launch at 1535:47. The system immediately classified the threat as ballistic, calculated the trajectory, and determined the ship was in the impact zone. Time to impact: approximately 340 seconds. 5.5 minutes. 5 minutes sounds like plenty of time. For a ballistic missile traveling at Mach 10, it isn't. Captain Jennifer Santos, no relation to the Vice Admiral, faced the same challenge every American commander had faced in the previous engagements. The Aegis system wasn't optimized for theater ballistic missiles. The Jason Dunham carried SM-6 missiles capable of engaging ballistic targets in their terminal phase. But the Sejil 2 was coming in faster and steeper than any previous Iranian attack. At 1536:02, Captain Santos authorized weapons release. 4 SM-6 missiles launched in rapid succession, the maximum engagement package against a single threat. At 1538:14, the first SM-6 reached its calculated intercept point. The Sejil 2 wasn't there. The missile's reentry vehicle was equipped with a maneuvering capability, the ability to adjust its trajectory during terminal descent. Not dramatically, but enough. Enough to evade intercepts calculated against a ballistic path. The SM-6 detonated. The Sejil 2 continued. At 1538:31, the second SM-6 engaged. Closer this time. The fragment struck the Sejil 2's re-entry vehicle, damaging the outer casing, but the warhead inside remained intact. The missile kept falling. At 1538:47, the third SM-6 engaged. Another proximity detonation. More fragmentation damage. The Sejil 2's guidance system failed. The maneuvering capability was destroyed, but the warhead was still intact. And now it was falling on a ballistic trajectory, unguided but still lethal. At 1539:02, the fourth SM-6 engaged. Miss. The damaged re-entry vehicle was tumbling now, its trajectory unpredictable. The SM-6's seeker couldn't track the erratic motion. The missile passed 80 meters from the target. The Phalanx CIWS engaged at 1540:34. Against some rounds connected, the already damaged re-entry vehicle broke apart. But the warhead, 650 kilograms of high explosive in a hardened casing, continued falling, tumbling, unguided, but aimed well enough. At 1541:07, the Sejil 2 warhead struck the USS Jason Dunham. The impact point was the forward superstructure, the section housing the bridge, the combat information center, and the ship's primary command spaces. The detonation was catastrophic. 650 kilograms of explosive, more than 4 times the warhead of the anti-ship missiles in previous engagements, detonated inside the ship's command section. The bridge was destroyed instantly. Everyone inside, the officer of the deck, the helmsman, the quartermaster, the lookouts, died in the first second. The Combat Information Center was directly below the bridge. The blast penetrated the deck. More deaths, more destruction. Captain Santos was in the CIC when the missile hit. She was killed instantly. Her last order had been weapons release. Her last decision had saved some of her crew. But not all. 11 sailors died in the first 30 seconds. Lieutenant Commander David Wilson, the executive officer. Lieutenant Sarah Chin, the tactical action officer. Chief Petty Officer Michael Thompson. And 8 more whose names would be read at memorial services across America. 19 more were wounded, some critically. The Jason Dunham was gutted forward. Fire raged through the command spaces. Smoke billowed from holes where the bridge windows had been. The ship was listing, taking water through breaches in the hull. But she wasn't sinking. The Arleigh Burke class is designed to survive damage. Compartmentalization. Redundant systems. Damage control capability distributed throughout the ship. The Jason Dunham had lost her captain, her executive officer, her bridge, and her primary command center. She hadn't lost her ability to float or to fight. Lieutenant James Park was the senior surviving officer. He was in the aft damage control station when the missile hit, the farthest point from the impact. He assumed command at 1543. He was 27 years old. He had been in the Navy for 4 years. He had never commanded anything larger than a damage control party. Now he commanded a burning destroyer with 11 dead, 19 wounded, and a decision to make. At 1545, Park established communication with 5th Fleet using the ship's backup satellite system. His report was the grimmest any American commander had transmitted since the Cole bombing. Jason Dunham hit by ballistic missile. Captain Santos killed. XO killed. Bridge destroyed. CIC destroyed. 11 KIA confirmed. 19 wounded. Ship is damaged but floating. I have assumed command. Awaiting instructions. Vice Admiral Richardson received the report at 1547. He had been tracking the engagement in real time. He had watched the Sagiel 2 launch, watched the intercept attempts, watched the impact. He knew the Jason Dunham was hit hard before Park's report arrived. What he didn't know was whether the ship would survive, or whether the Iranians were preparing a follow-up attack. At 1548, Richardson ordered all available assets to the Jason Dunham's position. The cruiser USS Monterey was 40 miles south. She could provide air defense coverage. The destroyer USS Mitcher was 60 miles west. She could assist with damage control and casualty evacuation. But defense wasn't the only consideration. 11 American sailors were dead. The captain of an American warship was dead. The most sophisticated missile Iran had ever used had struck an American ship directly. The response needed to be unprecedented. At 1551, Richardson convened an emergency targeting session with CENTCOM. The target list that emerged went beyond anything previously approved. Primary targets: the Sagiel 2 production facility near Tehran, the missile storage complex at Khorramabad, the launch command center that had authorized the attack. Secondary targets: Iran's 3 remaining operational Sagiel 2 launchers. Intelligence had tracked them for years. Now, they would be destroyed. Tertiary targets: the ballistic missile test range at Semnan, the guidance research facility that had developed the maneuvering reentry vehicle. This wasn't proportional response. This was elimination. At 1558, the White House was briefed. At 1602, the National Security Council approved. At 1608, the execution order was transmitted. Operation Final Answer. The assets were global. 4 B-2 Spirit stealth bombers, already airborne from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, were diverted from a training mission. They carried a total of 64 GBU 31 JDAMs and 8 GBU 57 massive ordnance penetrators. 2 B-52H Stratofortress bombers, operating from Diego Garcia, carried 96 AGM-158J ASSM cruise missiles, standoff weapons that could strike from 370 kilometers away, keeping the bombers safely outside Iranian air defenses. The guided missile submarines USS Ohio and USS Georgia launched 48 Tomahawk cruise missiles, and the carrier air wing of the USS Gerald R. Ford, 44 FA 18 EF Super Hornets, 5 EA 18 G Growlers, and 4 E-2D Hawkeyes, launched the largest carrier strike mission since Operation Iraqi Freedom. Total assets committed: 6 bombers, 53 tactical aircraft, 48 cruise missiles. Total targets: 9 facilities across western and central Iran. At 16:14, 33 minutes after the Sejil 2 struck the Jason Dunham, the first weapons launched. The Tomahawks went first. 48 missiles, targeting the most time-sensitive objectives, the mobile Sejil 2 launchers that might relocate before the bombers arrived. The launchers were tracked by satellite. Their positions were known within 10 meters. The Tomahawks didn't miss. At 16:42, 3 Sejil 2 mobile launchers, Iran's remaining strategic strike capability, were destroyed simultaneously. The vehicles, the missiles, the crews. At 16:51, the B-52s reached their launch point. The Stratofortresses fired their JASSM missiles from 400 kilometers away, well outside Iranian air defense range. 96 precision weapons streaked toward the missile storage complex at Khorramabad. The complex was hardened. Underground bunkers, reinforced concrete. The JASSMs weren't designed for bunker busting, but they were designed for saturation. 96 impacts in a 90-second window. The above-ground facilities were obliterated. The access tunnels were collapsed. The ventilation shafts were destroyed. Whatever was inside those bunkers would stay inside. Forever. At 17:04, the B-2s reached their targets. The production facility near Tehran received the massive ordnance penetrators. 2 bombs, 30,000 pounds each, designed to reach targets 200 feet underground. The facility that manufactured Iran's most advanced missiles ceased to exist. The production lines, the testing equipment, the engineers, everything. The Guidance Research Facility at Semnan received 32 JDAMs. The scientists who had developed the maneuvering re-entry vehicle, the technology that had allowed the Sejil 2 to evade 4 SM-6 interceptors, died with their research. The ballistic missile test range received the remaining weapons: launch pads, tracking facilities, control bunkers. The infrastructure that had developed Iran's strategic missile program over 3 decades was destroyed in 3 minutes. At 17:18, the carrier aircraft arrived. The Super Hornets had the most dangerous mission, striking the Launch Command Center outside Tehran. This facility was heavily defended. It was the nerve center of Iran's strategic forces. The Growlers led the assault, their jamming pods overwhelming Iranian air defenses. Harm missiles homed on any radar brave enough to radiate. The facility was hardened, underground, protected. It didn't matter. The first wave cratered the surface. The second wave collapsed the structures. The third wave penetrated the underground levels. The officers who had authorized the attack on the Jason Dunham, who had ordered a strategic missile fired at a single destroyer, were buried in the rubble of their own command post. At 17:31, the last American aircraft cleared Iranian airspace. Operation Final Answer was complete. The damage assessment took weeks to compile fully. The summary was simple. Iran's strategic ballistic missile program was destroyed. Production facilities, eliminated. Research facilities, eliminated. Storage complexes, eliminated. Mobile launchers, eliminated. Command infrastructure, eliminated. Estimated Iranian casualties, 800 to 1,200 personnel, many of them senior scientists, engineers, and military officers. Expertise that had taken decades to develop. The Sejil 2 program that Iran had invested billions in, that they had hoped would give them strategic deterrence against Israel and leverage against the United States, was gone. Not degraded, gone. The Jason Dunham was towed to Bahrain. The damage was severe, but not irreparable. She would spend 14 months in dry dock before returning to service. Captain Jennifer Santos and the 10 other sailors who died were buried with full military honors. The Jason Dunham received the Presidential Unit Citation, the highest unit award in the American military. Lieutenant James Park received the Navy Cross for his actions after the impact. The 27-year-old who had assumed command of a burning destroyer went on to command his own ship 4 years later. The diplomatic response was unlike anything that had come before. Iran didn't just condemn the strike. They threatened all-out war. They mobilized reserves. They positioned forces along the Iraqi border. For 72 hours, the world held its breath. Then Iran stood down. Their strategic missile program was destroyed. Their ability to threaten American forces, or Israel, or Saudi Arabia, was eliminated. Fighting a conventional war against the United States with nothing but tactical weapons would be suicide. They negotiated instead. The negotiations took 8 months. The result was a ceasefire that ended the Gulf confrontation, at least temporarily. Iran agreed to suspend anti-ship operations. The United States agreed to reduce naval presence. Both sides claimed victory, but the calculus was clear. Iran had fired one strategic missile at one American ship. They had killed 11 sailors and damaged one destroyer. In response, America had destroyed their entire strategic missile program. Decades of work, billions of dollars, thousands of personnel. The exchange rate was catastrophic. 33 minutes. That speed, that scale, that totality is the reason American warships sail wherever they choose. And it's the reason adversaries think very carefully before attacking them. The Jason Dunham is back at sea now. She carries a new crew, a new captain, and the name of a hero who understood that sometimes courage means accepting the unthinkable. Her motto is the same as Corporal Dunham's last words. I'm okay. She wasn't okay. Neither was the ship. But they both survived. And in warfare, survival is the first victory. Stay informed. Stay vigilant. I'll see you in the next one.